This is Dorothy Avery, longtime Orangeville resident. I'm Maria Nodoff with the Orangevale History Project, accompanied by Ken Benedict, our videographer. So Dorothy, what year were you born?
1938.
And where were you born?
San Mateo, California.
And where were your parents from?
My dad was from Sapapa, Oklahoma, and my mom was from San Francisco, California.
Okay. How is it that you came to Orangevale?
My grandmother moved here first in about 1946. I'm going by my grammar school pictures. And we lived on off of Walnut Avenue for 1 year. My dad had a shop at the corner of Hazel and Greenback.
What kind of a shop?
Automotive mechanic, repair, anything to do with the engines.
And did it have a name?
Evans Body Shop. And he was Charles Evans Sr. Charles Richard Evans Sr.
So, this picture that you're showing me, should we take a picture of it or just do it later? Okay.
Yeah.
What school is this?
Orangeville Grammar School at the corner of Central and Filbert.
And was this, this was not the entire school?
No, that's just the front. And
No,
I
meant the children.
Oh, that's just the 7th and 8th grades.
Oh, 7th and 8th grade.
Well, yeah.
Okay, 7th and 8th grades. All right. So, tell us about your early childhood.
Oh, I was a brat. We lived in Palo Alto, and my dad had a shop there. And he did the work, and he had a, I guess it was one of the first NASCAR races. He had the hot rod that he raced, and it was a wallpaper. And Granny had used big red roses wallpaper, and she had some left. So he wallpapered his race car. And we had fun going to the races. He won trophies. And let's see, I think our car number was 88 too.
And where were the races?
In the Bay Area. They were all down in the Bay Area. And then I went to Ravenswood Grammar School down there, and we moved up here when I was in the 5th grade, because Granny came here first in about 1946, and she bought an acre of land from my husband's parents, and her brother and his wife bought an acre of land right next to them.
And where was this acre of land? Is that on Walnut?
87, 80, he's a big help. The corner of Sunset and Hazel, where the big apartment is.
Okay, yes.
I think it's 80, I can't remember.
Okay.
Mom's address, Granny's address was 8833, and theirs was, I guess it was 8897, Sunset Avenue, right on the corner.
So there were 2 acres there?
No, they bought 5 acres.
Okay.
and then they sold the 1 acre right next to John and Opal Bell. And then Granny was, of course, was Jim's sister, Myrtle, and she bought an acre there. It was just down the street at 8833. And so we grew up neighbors. Mm-hmm. And then Dad opened the shop there, where Walgreens mm-hmm. is, or was. Mm-hmm. And across the street, directly across the street, was the public market. And the Wu brothers owned that. And then...
was Capri?
No, it was public market back then. The public market. Had you heard that one?
Yes, I've heard that before.
Okay. On the other block, where the chamber's located, that was the Orangeville Community Clubhouse. And on the other side, across the other corner, there was a bar on the corner called Pop Homes.
Now, are we talking about where the Bank of America is?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And that was Pop Homes Bar. And then next to them, there was Wyatt's Market. And our daughter-in-law. There was a meat market along there.
What did Wyatt's carry?
Groceries.
Groceries. Okay.
Now the Wu brothers was the dad, and I don't know what his name was, but he was Grandpa Wu's, and he had the sons, and I don't know if this is the order they have them, but there was Clarence and Harry. Clarence, Harry. Albert was the youngest. It'll come back to me. And they ran the market. And I think that the house that the Wus lived in was right next to where Walmart was or is, and there was in front of the public market on the corner. There was a little gas station that was part of the public market, and. Let's see. On the very corner was an old house next to Dad's shop. It was Guy Wilson. I don't know what he did, but Guy Wilson lived there. And then my dad. And then there was another little restaurant bar, and by it there was a gas station. In the late 50s, when you bought so many gallons of gasoline, you got a free little storybook-sized doll. When he got gas, he gave me the doll. The feed store, Sicardi's, was the next one along there.
So,
On down Hazel, I think, is where they moved the Boo's house. There's an old house about halfway down. You may have pictures of that old house already. But I think that was the Wu's house.
And it was located on Hazel?
And it was located on Hazel.
South, toward the river?
Down this way.
Okay, up, so north, up here?
Yeah, up
Okay.
this way, about halfway on the
Okay.
other side of the street.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was the old Wu house.
So they actually moved the house?
Yeah,
okay.
because it was next to the, public market.
So they moved it. And
And-
is it still there?
Yeah,
The house is still there?
yeah, that old house is still there.
Okay.
It's one of the old Orangeville's oldest. And then I went to Orangeville Grammar School for the 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th. And Mrs. Roper was my 5th grade teacher. And then my graduating picture, and I have another one here somewhere.
Oh, is this San Juan?
No, that's Orangeville.
Oh, look at how you look so grown up, all dressed up.
Yeah. Apparently we had our graduation at San Juan High School. It says somewhere on one of these, I don't know.
Where are you in this picture?
I am right there, between Jimmy Lawrence and Lillian Calbo. She's in charge of the reunions for San Juan class of 57. This is Orangeville 51 and 2. It was a 6th and 7th grade school teacher, and I don't know where I am. I know most of these guys. That's my sister. But there's some names on the back. And then this is the Robert School. Juanita Farrell. Her family lived on the corner of Hickory and Central. Central? Yeah. Hickory and Central, the Farrells. And I suppose, there's another picture on the other side.
Oh, wonderful.
And I don't have the date on this, but that's what the Bank of America later, it has some, the B of A was on the corner. Then there was a tire place, and the drugstore was over here. And this is my 8th grade class of 53 for the grammar school.
Oh, wow.
This is Edna Avery, his mother. She was this lady here. And this is Lois Pierce. And
What are they?
she's a cafeteria manager.
Ah.
And
So
Edna was a helper. And Lois was a manager.
at Twin Lakes, it says.
I know. Well, the picture might be Twin Lakes, but they started at Orangeville
I
first.
see. Ah,
They did Orangeville, they did Twin Lakes, they did Central. His mother ended up manager at Central when it was Coleman.
Uh-huh.
And Thomas Coleman's in one of those pictures.
Oh, wow.
I think it's my 8th grade school picture. Let's see here. I'm getting these all mixed up. See if I can get some order to them.
Well, when did you meet your husband?
When I was 12 years old,
Okay.
he lived on the corner there.
Uh-huh.
And Granny, of course, she gave Dad half of her half acre to build a house if he'd stay up here, because he was ready to go back to the Bay Area.
Uh-huh.
And he had a horse named Buck, and he'd ride that up and down, and I had this crush on it. And finally I asked him if he'd write to me when he was in the Army. But our parents were friends, and
And where did he serve?
and just in America, because in 1953 his dad was killed at the corner of Pershing and Hazel, and he was in an accident, and then he got a 30-day furlough for that, and when he went back to off of leave, then that was when I asked him to write to me. And let's see.
And then pretty soon the war was over.
Yeah, he got.
We're talking about the Korean War.
Yeah, he was in Korea.
So your husband went to Korea.
No, he didn't. He
Oh.
didn't go overseas.
Okay.
When he was going home from camp in April of 54, I guess it was, there were 3 boys that came home for the weekend on leave from Hunter Lake down in Southern California, and the driver fell asleep, and the boy in the seat next to him was killed. The driver ended up with a broken leg, and he was thrown from the back seat of the car. See how the left side of his face is little? That side was pushed away from the side, and he spent 3 months in French camp. He went to French camp for a week, and the Army moved him to Pittsburgh to Camp Stolman, and he was in there 3 months. And when he went back, he was sent to Washington to Fort Lewis, and then from there he went to Arizona, and they put telephone lines up at Fort Huachuca, and that's down southern part of Arizona. And let's see.
So I guess you had to wait a while for him to come home, and
He came home and lived in between different places.
so when did you marry?
November the 11th of 1956, my senior year at San Juan. We went, when we were going out to dinner on our 35th anniversary, we were driving along, and he said, "Do you know I'm a veteran twice over?" And I said, "What do you mean? You've only been in Korea once?" And he said, "We've been married 35 years. Doesn't that make me a veteran?" No. Happy memories. Anyway, so I graduated from oh, I dropped that. Yeah. Why don't I just hand these to you so I quit messing them up.
All right.
Now, you want to know who those are?
I see the names down here. Thomas Coleman and Sadie Cable.
Uh-huh.
William Manning.
Uh-huh. My mother now, Dr. Manning came to Orangeville when I was in about the 7th grade. And he took all the classes in we had the new auditorium, and that's where the cafeteria was and everything. And Dr. Manning had everybody in there and was giving his history. And he said he was from San Francisco and that he went to Balboa High School. And that's the main part that I remember. And then when I went home that day, I said to Mom that we got a new principal. And Mom says, who'd you get? And I said, William Manning. And he went to Balboa High School in San Francisco. My mom says, I went to school with a William Manning. And so the next day I go back to school and I approach him and I ask him, I told him my mom went to Balboa High School, and I wondered if he knew her. And he said, what's her name? And I said, Doris Trump. And he said, I know Doris. So he knew my mom. They went to school together. And then let's hand him those.
All right.
Let's see here.
What happened after you? Well, I guess you married.
Yeah, I married when I was in high school.
Uh-huh.
I was a senior November that year.
Mm-hmm.
And let's go back to, you want to know what was going down Greenback?
Oh, yes.
Okay. At Pecan, at the corner, let's see, at the corner of
Pecan and
the next down,
Gilbert?
no, I think it's before Filbert. Pecan, maybe?
Pecan.
And Greenback?
And Greenback.
Okay.
Let's see, Greenback and...
There should have been a big mansion at that intersection.
No, not along there. That was empty land. On the other side of the street, where there's a bunch of houses now, was empty. And then they had a strawberry field in there a couple years ago. I think that's the corner. But I don't remember a big house in there. Not yet, anyway.
Should have been a big house where the orbit station is right now.
I don't remember that.
I remember the strawberry field.
Yeah.
Then they put that house and track in there. Chestnut? Is that the next one?
Filbert, then Chestnut.
Filbert's first?
Yes, Filbert, Chestnut, Walnut.
Okay, Filbert, it was Turk's Hardware. And Leah Turk was the daughter that I was in school with. And now it's office buildings, kind of split level.
Mm-hmm.
If I have the right corner.
Yes, it's gray. I
That
think.
Orangeville sign is in the middle of the street now where it is. That was Turk's Hardware. And let's see, after it was the Cardis and it was the Orbit station, but it didn't go in for a little while after that. It was between them, I think. Anyway, between Walnut and the corner of Walnut, it was a Dairy Queen back then even. And on that corner, across the street, catty corner, where the automotive shop is now, that was Vance's Market.
Vance's?
Vance. Bill Vance owned it. And it was a grocery store. And then across on the other side was the glass place was there. And where I don't know if
The gas station?
on that corner, yeah, Dick's Glass is right there next to that. I don't remember what was right on that corner.
Dick's
Hancock.
Hancock Station was there?
Hancock gasoline.
Across from,
Right next to Orangevale Glass.
okay, on the corner of Walnut. Okay, on the other side, where the Orangeville Ranch is, Dr. Kenneth Overholt lived. And it was an old house, which was torn down for the rent place, Orangeville Ranch. And then as you got up to the corner, you curved around and there was a donut shop right on the corner. And
Was it called Spud Nuts?
yes,
Okay.
the Spud Nut. And but my grandmother's property where we lived that first year was her backyard backed up to Dr. Overall's. And that first summer I had strep throat. And my grandmother came to visit. She drove, my mom didn't. And she got back in her car, saw how sick I was, drove around to the doctor's house and went up and knocked on the door and told him she was his neighbor that faced his backyard. And my granddaughter, she says, my granddaughter was really sick and I need you to come over there and help her. And he said, well, just what's the matter? And she said, I had a high fever and my throat and everything. And he said, well, give her some aspirin and bring her in the shop in the morning. And as I remember it, his office was in Folsom on the corner of Sutter and Wool, upstairs where the Balcony Cafe used to be. And I had to climb those stairs with strep throat. I was so sick. And then Dad had to take me down to Mercy in Sacramento because there was no hospitals out here for a throat culture. And but Granny walked up that door and she says, when he said take her, she says, you take her, go around there and take care of that child right now or I'm going to sue the pants off of you. He came. I got shot. And then the next day I got medicine. But my grandmother was a force of nature. I never forget. I told him. It was funny. Oh. This is a picture of her brother John and his last child, Dennis. And this is him and his cousin Rhonda Lynn. And behind shows how far back my dad was interested in cars. Behind there is an old car with me and my sister. let's see. Oh, Terry's the last one. Okay. On the, I think that's, oh, no. Greenback Lane went straight where Subnet went around the corner that way. On the other side was the Jet Market. That came in next.
And that was across the street from Spudnet?
Yeah, where they built that new gas station that's going in now.
Uh-huh.
And then straight across, it just went up a little ways. The I can't think of the name. The bar that's the bar Broadwalk.
The boardwalk.
Boardwalk was built by Jim Bell and his wife Elma Jean. And they had a trailer where you put your trailers, rent place, put your trailers. But Jim and Elma Jean built that, and she had a little restaurant there in that little house that's still there. And then the other side of the street was just houses where some of the kids that I went to school with lived. And when you went around the corner, that was turkey time. Aren't they beautiful?
They are beautiful. Hello, gentlemen.
But Eddie, back to the story. When you ran around the corner there was, on the other side of the street was another bar, and it's a upholstery place now.
Are we on Main Street
Main
now?
Street.
Yeah, Crown Upholstery.
Yeah, Crown Upholstery.
Because they had the Gateway was over there.
The Gateway was the bar.
Okay, that was on the corner.
No, not directly on the corner where it is now.
Uh-huh.
The building's still there.
Okay.
And I don't remember it being exactly on the corner.
Okay. So
when we moved there, when I lived in Granny's house in the middle 40s, the Gateway was there because my dad hung out there. Don't put that.
Was the P&D market there also?
I may be on the other side of the street because I don't remember just exactly what was there. But I don't remember P&D market in that, where the Gateway was. When you went on down and turned onto Orangevale Avenue, you can see it from the street, a big building. Orangeville Unified School District. Ernie Dietrich was the man that lived there, and he drove the school bus and maintained them and everything, and they were parked there. And then that went on around to that picture I had of the Lincoln Cut. And Greenback didn't go on through until I guess it was 96 or 97. No, 50. It was when I was in high school, so it was 56 and 57. Yeah, 56 and 57. I had driver's training, and that went through, and I was scared driving along there. Don't forget that either. Anyway, that's Greenback, and you know how Greenback got its name, don't you?
tell us.
Tell you?
Because we've heard so different stories. So you tell us.
Really?
Yes, you tell us yours.
Well, I was told way back that Greenback Lane got its name because it was built by the Chinese and paid for with greenbacks.
Yes, we've heard this as well.
Okay. What are the other stories you heard?
I think That's the main one. There was another story, I can't remember it right now. Something about
Some gal couldn't pay or didn't pay.
something, I can't remember.
Yeah.
Paid for by greenbacks.
And down the other way on Greenback, was the Robert School. Oh,
Central.
no, Greenback towards Beach. That's the cable center, so it was, what was his name? We had our insurance with him. He was a cable. One son was Vernon and one was...
Don't ask me.
Vernon was the oldest. And then the other boy were Sadie Cable's sons. And let's see. After Beach was Robert School. It was all land, in between these places. And Sadie Cable was my 8th grade school teacher. She lived on Almond Avenue. It's a big tract of houses now. Corner of Almond and Central. And she was my 8th grade school teacher. And then next to her, back towards Greenback, was Celia Perry. And she was my 7th and 8th grade school teacher. And you pictures in there was just mostly land towards Almond. We bought the house at 6520 Almond Avenue, and we lived there about 23 years.
You and your husband?
Mm-hmm. Our 4 kids were born there. The housing tract back on the other side of Central was a big housing tract that was already in there. At the other corner of Doves, there was houses built, but the one right on the corner is an old house too. It was there. I don't know how long, but it was there when we moved into the 6520.
On Almond?
Yeah, faces Almond, but it's right on the corner
Of Almond and
and
Greenback?
No, Central.
Oh, okay. Excuse me. Central.
Ours was the 3rd or 4th house from the corner of Central. Okay. And then all of the houses back behind and all. And then I can't remember the exact year, but it was early 50s. There was a boy that was a year or 2 ahead of me in school, Dickie Baker. Dickie was a volunteer fireman, and he liked to put out fires. So he burned down the Orangevale Community Clubhouse. He burned down Roberts, the old Roberts School, among others. And they finally caught him. They finally got him. And then
What happened?
Heard that story before.
What happened to Dickie?
they nailed him.
And did he go? Was he still a kid? Did he go to?
He was a teenager.
So did he go down to Ione or
I guess. I don't know.
Preston School of Industry?
I don't know just where he
Is he
went.
still around?
That I don't know either. I have no idea. I imagine there's records somewhere. But anyway, I'm missing something. Oh, the Orangeville post office was on the cable corner, but on the Hazel side.
On the other side?
Yeah, coming down Hazel this way. Woo's was over there and over here. was the post office, and I think a library was in there, small library. And of course the Bank of America is the exact corner. And I know he could remember some things there. Yes, you can. You look at that face. Doesn't that tell you? Anyway, Rick was born in January 12th of 58. That was our first son. And he went to school through Central, and then it was renamed Colvin. And now I don't know what it's named. Corner of Central and Beach. David was second. He was our second son, and I saw him go that way a while ago. Our daughter-in-law tosses seed out for him, so they're eating on the other side of the pickup. But anyway, David was October 4th of 59, and then it was still mostly acreage along there. And then Jana came along May the 22nd of 61. And Kellyanne came along the 18th of 63. They were all born there. They all went to, the three oldest went to the Louis Pasteur, and then Casa Robley. And Kelly went to Andrew Carnegie, and then Casa Robley. And they were all active. I was a room mother for the kindergarten in Kelly's class. I made each of those kids a graduation hat. Those little, every child had one. And then I chaperoned Mr. Bonnell's class to on a road trip. And I've got letters of thank you from the children for chaperoning it. And isn't that a big turkey?
Yes.
When they fan out, they are so pretty. Let's see. When we get back to, I was in. I don't think I don't have some of them here. I'll get them to you later. But I was a 4-H mother for 2 years. And taught quilting. And then I was a fundraising mother 4 years, 3 years. 3 years for Casa Robley Music Department. And let's see, chaperone the jazz festival, drove kids to Reno to the jazz festival. Those 3 years. We chaperoned, the two of us chaperoned to Disneyland. Our three were in that, in 76. 1976, the bicentennial. And the boys played in the Bicentennial Parade at Disneyland. And Rick, the oldest one, played in the stage band part there at Carnation Plaza. And of course, I was the proudest mother there. All the kids called me Mom because I was there every day. So my kids called me Mom, and so the rest of the band called me Mom. And so I stayed until Kelly graduated from. They all graduated from CASA. And I've got newspaper articles. Oh, the boys also played taps for Memorial Day for Folsom Cemetery. David played. Now this is valuable, so you don't want to lose it. Ronald Reagan's signature.
Wow.
He when the Highway Patrol opened the academy out there on the other side of Sacramento, Ronald was there, and David got Ronald's signature on the back of the music. And Disneyland Bound. That tells all about that trip. These are certificates that CASA presented at the end of the year, 1980. 77. CASA Robley musicians back the bandwagon.
Did they ever play in powwow days?
I think back in beginning, Rick probably played in them because his senior year was 76, and then David came 77, and Jana 80, 79, and Kelly 82.
Your children, you said David is local.
Yeah.
The other ones?
Oh, Rick is handicapped and lives here on this address, over in the trailer that you parked by. He can't get around anymore. He'll be 63 or 64 in January. And David also stays here, helps take care of, does most of the care of Rick now that Dad and I are in our 80s. My full name is Dorothy Jean. So some of these say Jean, and you'll see Dorothy in some of them. After we married, I had to do everything legal, first name. So.
What is your husband's name?
Richard.
Richard.
He worked for Pacific Bell, Southwestern Bell. Where to go next? He went to, it followed Bell up to present day. And he worked there 48 years. And they called him, the young guys called him their mentor. And he could take one of those things that you can find water and underground pipe. He can take that and find you where the pipelines go.
A dowser?
Is that what they're called?
I think so.
Dowser or divining rod.
Divining rod. And the young guys made him one when he retired. So he's got it around here somewhere.
Did you go do the divining rod in downtown Sacramento?
A lot. You did your divining rod in Sacramento? See that post right there? That's from Interstate 5. When they took those out, he had his foreman ask if he could have one of those. And that's it. Came from Interstate 5, where Interstate 5 goes, when they took out all the streets to put Interstate 5 in.
I've heard stories of a old man and his divining rod down there in where the convention center is. Must have been you.
Yeah.
Could be. But I was the only one that was using them. Nobody else could make them work.
I've got a stack of letters of thank yous from customers that he went to fix their phone. One of them said they appreciated, the lady said she appreciated him so much because he put everything back just the way he found it. And I got a stack of them maybe like that, customers that wrote praising his work. And he just worked 48 years there. And
Long time.
mm-hmm.
When did you move to this place?
In 1956.
Oh.
You want to hear that story?
Sure.
I don't know how much of this you want to put in there.
Here, you need to speak up when you ask questions.
Okay.
We bought it, we started buying it in the fall of 56 because we planned on getting married as soon as I was 18 in December. So Carl Duke built our house on Almond across from the teachers. And we went in there. Well, first off, my dad wouldn't let me date unless I double dated. So my sister and her fella and his brother and I and him went to the snow one day after church. And one of them came up with, we were engaged by then, from April of that year. And one of them spoke up and said, wouldn't it be funny if Gene and Richard got married this while we go up to the snow? And we elbowed each other and, well, that's what we're going to do. We did. Well, we went on into Nevada and tried, but the judge wasn't on the other side of the border, and we found out we had to go into, it was Virginia City or what's that other one with city? Carson City. One of them to get a marriage license. So we decided we'd just come home and go back the next Sunday. So that's what we did. On November the 11th.
Did you tell your parents?
We told my mom when we got home. But we didn't tell Dad. Granny was going to pay for a big wedding for me until she found out what they cost. She backed out. So that's why we eloped. And I didn't know what my dad would do since I was 17. So we decided we wouldn't tell him yet. But we were buying a house. And one of the meetings with Duke, Carl, his name was Carl Duke, he said this would be a lot easier if you two were married already. Because we had told him, we were going to get married, and that's why we were buying the house. And we just looked at each other and grinned, and looked back at him and looked at each other, said, we are. We are married. And you remember that?
I don't remember nothing.
He remembers more than he lets on. I could tell you some good stories about him when he was tiny. He lived down the street from his grandmother at 810 South Walnut They lived down the street. And he had a little pedal car. And he pedaled down the middle of this dirt street, put his arm out, turned at grandmother's house. And the old model cars waited behind him very patiently while he pedaled and turned his arm, and he'd go into grandmother's. He'd get in the house, he'd park his little car, he'd get in the house, and he'd say, "Grandmother, my mother won't give me that good stuff to eat," because he had a problem with sugar in his urine. And they thought he might be pre-diabetic, but he wasn't. It was just a different in the way his kidneys made. Our daughter Janet has the same thing. But anyway, he had a little rocking horse, wood rocking horse. We don't know what happened to it. But when he rocked on it, he'd cover his eyes so nobody would see him.
And you remember this?
No, he got grandmother's stories.
Okay.
Yeah. Should I tell her the other one? You don't remember it.
I don't remember nothing.
When he was in the Army and I asked him to write to me, I was 13. And they lived on the corner, we just lived down the street, and Mom and Dad went to the grocery store, public market. And I ran real fast down there and asked him if he'd write to me. And Grandmother Teagarden was still there. And when he went back in the house, because I asked him to come out, I didn't want to ask him in front of his mom and grandma. When he went back in the house, Grandmother asked him, "What did she want?" I don't know. And Grandmother says, "You tell me now. What did she want?" And he says, "Oh, that baby wants me to write to her." So he wrote to me because his grandmother told him to. And that was the start.
That's a lovely story.
He's been special to me all that time. And he takes good care of me now.
Don't hit me.
So,
I've got witnesses.
so did Carl Duke build this house?
No. James and Steel Construction built this house in 1977. David graduated from high school. No, we bought the land in 77. From Roger Lever was our realtor. And I went to school with his son Robert. They live down there. Their kids live in there now. Or their grandkids, Roger and Carol. She was a lady that I admired because all I wanted to do was be a wife and mother. And she was a PTA, involved in the PTA and everything, the women's club. And I wanted to be just like her. And another neighbor that we had on Sunset that I babysat for, and that was Lil Ford and Rusty Ford. They ended up divorced, and they both passed away now. Lillian had a beauty salon in Orangeville, and I don't know just exactly where it was located, but I know she had it. And they bought the land between John and Opal, John that I showed you the picture, and us. And then
Did Lillian have that hair salon by L&M Liquor
that could be.
at one building?
It very well could be. I don't know exactly, but Rusty was a carpenter, contractor, and he built several houses there on Sunset. The one they lived in, and he worked with Lillian's brother, building houses all over. And then across the street from between his house and mine were the Frenches, and he built that. No, the house next to the Frenches they built, Rusty built. And then in that one picture that I didn't tell you the teacher's name was Mrs. Stewart, Gladys Stewart, and she bought the little house in the front half acre that was my grandmother's. And she taught the 5th grade, I think it was. It says on that picture, I believe, didn't it? But she was really a nice lady. She and her husband didn't have any children, and she taught for San Juan. And but she bought Granny's house, and Rusty had the Black Stallion. That was next there. Well, it's a different name I noticed the other day.
The Black Stallion was there 52 years.
52 years? Well, Rusty's passed away now, so they changed the name. But I have their obituary notices. And ran into Rusty the last time I saw him was in the bank. And yeah, he had that back corner. Anyway, these are a couple of diplomas and the certificate appreciation for promotion and support of the music department.
Yay.
And another couple that they passed away now were Jack and Idell Tinker. They lived on Beach. And I talked him into being, joining the Friends of Music. And he was our Friends of Music president for several years. He was also, they met in high school, Jack and Rich. And we're in the Army together. And I think Jack was in the Navy too. He spent 2 different, and then they had 2 sons, Hal and I can't remember the other boys. David was out here to remember.
What did Jack Tinker do for a living?
Worked for the telephone company, along with Rich. But he retired before he passed away. And he was, but he was president of the Friends of Music and a chaperone. Thanks to me. Talked him into it. Idell worked for something else. It says it in her obituary, and I don't remember. I have a picture of the band, the stage band, and I think it's in one of the boys' books, so I'll have to let you have that later. But this group is all certificates, and Casa Roble musicians back on the bandwagon. And Rick's first trip was to Spokane to the World Fair up there. And when they were 4-H, they were in, there's my 4-H certificate. Rick was a senior when I first got into it, and he raised his sheep. And it was, I can't even remember their names. George was the son, and the dad. And when Rick was a senior, he tried to fail a couple of classes so he could go to CASA the next year. And George's dad called me up, and you know what your son's doing? What's he up to now? Well, he's trying to fail a class or two so he can go to CASA next year. He did not fail. But his dad was the builder of Highway 50 out there. And he lived right there. You turn left on Oak, and he was the second house. They tore down the house. You had to cross the creek to get to it. And they've torn down that house and that George and family lived in. And they're building another house in there now. And they have a gate across the driveway. They were all into 4-H, and since we were on Almond, we didn't have a place to keep sheep. So they kept the sheep at their house for Rick. And anyway, then that's another, my high school diploma. San Juan, class of 57, class of 52. And this little lady was one of our foster children. Oh, Casa Robles High acclaimed band head for World's Fair.
Wow.
And that was Rick's freshman year. And I came in his second year. Sophomore year I started. And this is one of our foster babies.
Ah.
We were foster parents for newborns placed for adoption for about 5 years. And her soft spot started to close. And they had brain surgery, 1/2 inch by 5 inches on each side of her head. And we had her 8 months and wanted to adopt her. And she turned out, I had to work with parents that adopted her. He worked for a dairy, Crystal Dairy. And her name was Carolyn, but we called her Carrie. And that's Carrie. And then this tells about the business she and her friends started in Orangeville.
Excellent.
And that's it. For now.
Well, this has been really, really informative. I think that we may have to come back and interview you some more.
I think so, but you didn't ask enough questions.
Well, I'll think of a bunch of questions and we'll come back and ask some more.
Oh, how about next Monday? Since
Sure, we can do that.
okay,
That would be fine.
that way I'll see the black roof down there.
Uh-huh.
I started buying that last September from Lowe's. I didn't get it until December. And the roof's coming off already.
Oh dear.
But that's going to be my she shed. And the guys helped, well, I supervised. They did all the work. Moved stuff this past week. We're not done. I have 15 cases of dolls in that house. besides the Dale Earnhardt collection. Dale is the one that passed away, and Dale Jr. is the one he drives like.
Well, I think what we'll do is we'll continue this discussion
Okay.
next Monday at 1 o'clock.
Okay.
How would that be?
That sounds good
Okay,
to me.
thank you.
I've got the other pictures too. And David,
And were they delivered in a hospital?
Sutter Memorial downtown.
Okay.
All
think-
four.
I think everybody that we've interviewed was born in Sutter Memorial.
I think that was the only hospital
Okay.
in downtown for a long time.
Okay,
No,
so-
Mercy was downtown.
Mercy also?
Because when I was in the 5th grade, I had strep throat that first year we moved here.
Yeah.
And Dr. Overholt had my dad take me to Mercy Children's downtown to have a throat culture.
Now, Dr. Overholt lived
Where Greenback Rents is.
Okay, so that is next to.
That's between Walnut and Maine. Next to Dick's Glass.
Right. Didn't I write that? Didn't I put that down here? Did I write it?
It was a little yellow
right.
house.
Okay, so it was where Greenback Rents is now.
Yeah.
Dr. Overholt.
Kenneth Overholt. And
He had his office there, huh?
no, he had his house. That was his home.
I think he practiced.
His office was in Folsom, upstairs over Dorothea's Christmas.
So was the Spudnut across the street from the gateway?
Yeah, no, it was on the corner. You had to go around the corner, and there's a little. It's not a gas station. It's a. I don't remember what it was exactly back then, but it's a dog place right on the corner now.
Okay.
And then going towards Central, it was those buildings that are along there. And there's a motorcycle shop and a barber and Bloomingdale's.
Right, right.
And
That's where P&D Market used to be.
Oh, really?
Yep.
So was that north of Spudnut? I'm confused about where the
what was
Spudnut
P&D Market?
That was the market on Main Avenue.
It wasn't Wyatt's.
Wyatt's owned it, I thought.
They were on Greenback, next to Pop Holmes Bar, there at the corner of Hazel and Greenback.
Oh, that's right. Pop Holmes was across from the clubhouse.
Yeah, that was right directly across on the corner.
Oh, okay.
His dad hung out there.
Okay. His dad hung out there and your dad hung out at the gateway. Okay. Carl Duke, did he build you a house? He's
Yes,
the one that...
The one on Almond, 6520 Almond Avenue.
Okay, so he bought... Okay, Carl Duke built your 6520 Almond. And who built this one?
Jameson Steel Construction.
Okay. You arrived in Orangevale in
About 1947, maybe.
1947, and you lived with your...
No, it wasn't room to live with anybody. It was, Granny had a little one-bedroom house off of Walnut. And her backyard backed up to Dr. Kenneth Overholt's backyard.
Okay.
And that's when she got in her car and drove around and
So where did you live when you got here?
there in Granny's house.
You did. Okay. You lived in...
Yeah, they built a garage and stored all our belongings in it. But they didn't put a floor in it. And they didn't do a well enough job on the roof, and everything we brought with us from the Bay Area got ruined. And then she gave Dad that half acre on Sunset, and over that next summer he built the house. and then we moved into it.
So in 48 or 49?
Uh,
So you went to Orangevale and then San Juan,
yeah, and then San Juan.
and the whole time you lived on Sunset until you married, correct?
Yeah, and we lived off of Walnut 1 year. And then he had the house done enough to where we could move into it. And then, so we lived there. And I walked from Sunset up to Phoenix, where I caught the Orangeville bus.
Okay.
And Thelma Woodworker was the bus driver for the San Juan schools. And then Ernie Dietrich, who was on Orangeville Avenue, built a building big enough for the school buses to fit in. And he was the caretaker of the buses and one of the drivers.
So when you graduated then from San Juan, you moved to the two of you had a house on
On 6520
Almond, right?
Yeah.
And you lived there for how many years?
23 and a half.
23 years. And then you moved here.
Yeah.
And when was that then?
They started building the house on July the 19th of 78. We bought the 4 acres in 77. And then July 19th of, it gets noisy out here sometimes. But July the 19th of 78, James and Still started building that first year, because we bought the land, we had to put a whole new fence up. It was just broken down barbed wire. The old stables was built. It has 3 stalls and a tack room. And I wanted the house built right in the middle so nobody else could build close to us. They finished building the house
In what year was that?
in 78. We moved in November 1st. They started it July 19th and we moved in November 1st.
And you've been here ever since. It's a beautiful place.
40-some years.
So you raised your 4 children. They all went to 3 of them went to Pasteur, 1 of them went to Carnegie, and they all went to Casa.
And Central. They all went to Central. Then Thomas Coleman.
That's now Thomas Coleman. And then and you were active, very active, as you described, with the band, Casa Band, and got lots of certificates, and I know you have lots of clippings about that. After your children graduated, were you involved in anything else? Were you part of the Orangevale Women's Club?
No, I always wanted to be. I admired Carol Lever so much, when I was younger. But I was so busy because I was a foster mother for newborns that were placed for adoption. We did that for about 5 years after Kelly was in kindergarten. And then I was also a pink lady for Mercy Hospital down at San Juan and on Coyle Avenue. For 1 year, I got my 104 hours in that 1 year, and it was after that I was a foster mother. And in the meantime, I was a Boy Scout leader. He was coaching Little League. We were 4-H. Rick's senior year of high school, we joined 4-H. And I taught quilting, and David took electric, and Rick raised a lamb.
And where did you teach quilting?
At home. They came to the house on Almond. And we did the state fair. And I had them do a piece pillow. And then they entered them in the state fair, the county fair. They all took blue ribbons.
Wonderful.
And but I did that 2 years. And then I thought, they had so much fun doing that. So I joined the state fair, and I made jelly and apple and I don't know, there's an article in there. I crocheted a baby Afghan and a sweater set, took ribbons on those, and had a really good time doing that. And then I think by then I was in fundraising for the music department. And
Was that after your children graduated? That you were doing
well, Rick graduated, and then I think I went into it right after that.
fundraising? So all these things, if, you're being a foster mom, Pink Lady, all that happened while your kids were still in school?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my,
And
you were
growing
busy.
up.
What did you do after they all graduated?
Well, we bought a towing company. We owned American River Towing. We bought Folsom Towing for David, and he lost it in a divorce. And then, but then I opened the shop the first time in '83.
Before you, what was the name of the store that you had?
That I had was Victoria. No, first was Fluff and Stuff Gifts.
Fluff and Stuff.
Yeah, Fluff and Stuff Gifts.
What was your mother's name?
Doris Evans.
Thank you.
Now, his mother was Edna Avery. And when they built the Capri market, they had a branch that came out to Hazel. Hazel. And Clarence ran a 5 and 10 cent store. And both our mothers worked for Clarence.
Did it have a name, or was it just part of the Capri?
It was a separate thing because Clarence ran it and had different workers and everything. And so I think it was just called the 5 and 10. I don't remember exactly. And on the side, because it came over, the 5 and 10 faced Greenback, and on the side that faced Hazel, there was a shoe repair shop. And one other thing, but I don't remember what that was. But there was Harry, Clarence, Grant, and Wu, Albert, and he was in school when I was in school.
So your classmates?
I think he was 1 year ahead of me. Seems like he was 1 year ahead of me.
So back to you had to close your shop because of your mother's radiation treatments. So what happened after that?
Well, for 4 years, I did her running around and.
So didn't you open another shop?
Mm-hmm. In 1988, I opened Fluff and Stuff again, and the building that I had first was empty, and it was owned by Bob and Barbara Baker, and it was the old Bank of America building there on the corner of Riley and Sutter and Folsom. I had a doll museum. I rented the back part of the Bank of America. by this time, the Bakers owned that building, and they had the corner, and right directly behind it it had the old bank vault in it, and 2 other small rooms, and I rented those, and he built me cabinets, and I had a doll museum. And my sister got upset because I had to be at the shop. You know, we had a lot of money invested in it by this time, and she got real upset because she didn't want to take Mom to her radiation. And that's how I got involved in the radiation. And then so when I closed the shop then, I was gone 4 years, and she passed away on July 4th of '88. And I had just reopened Fluff and Stuff. And by then it was called Victorian Romance. And I started out as friends with Bonnie McAdams, who had Old Town Antiques on Sutter Street. And she got me involved in everything. She was president. So I got to be membership chairman for 3 years.
And that was the Merchants Association?
For the Merchants Association. And I was the only one that had 100% membership. There was one person that wouldn't join, and it was owned by the Brass Connection that was on the corner across in the 600 block of Riley. Hacienda's on this side, and Brass Connection was on this side. And it was owned by the guy that was running it, his uncle. And he refused to join the merchants. But I had everybody else on the street. And then, so I was membership chairman 3 years, and I was secretary 1 year. And I came across all that when I was looking for this stuff. And
what are your memories of Orangevale, of the town of Orangevale?
Well,
What were your impressions of it back then?
back then it was just a small little town, and we tried to keep country because we had horses on Almond until his mother sold the property, and his brother and family lived there because she remarried, and she moved in with him, and Tom and Merla stayed at 8897.
So it was still pretty open then.
Oh yeah, yeah, and across catty corner across from 8897, you know, they were this corner, and the Myers lived on the opposite corner, and it went straight out just a little bit. The Whites lived across from them, and the other was this big, massive field.
You're talking about Sunset now.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
And the airport, you know, was out there. And he rode his horse all out there. And he and his best friends.
Did you do most of your grocery shopping at the Capri?
Yeah.
So the public market was torn down. The Woos tore that down and built the new.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that was built in 58. The year Rick was born.
The Capri was?
Uh-huh. Yeah,
Okay.
1958 they built the Capri.
Okay.
So it was David was born in 59, and so it was the early 60s, most of the 60s, that the two moms worked for Clarence in the Five and Dime. And they both enjoyed that. And then there was a Safeway, was where Walgreens used to be. And
Between the time that you were involved with the Sutter Street Merchants Association in Folsom and the time that you joined the History Project, which was fairly recently, what did you do?
what did I do? I had the gift shop for 20 years.
The Victorian Romance?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
And it was all Victorian stuff. I had anything you could want for tea. I had a baby department and a men's department, NASCAR, all kinds of stuff. Throw rugs, gardening. I bought a 1898 wood stove. And I bought a oak ice box, the kind you put ice in. And it had 4 compartments. Well, I'm 83 now, and I want to donate those to a museum. And I was wondering, is our history group going to have museum things with it?
Eventually.
I'll donate everything.
That would be lovely. That would be
I've got
lovely.
those. You can set up a kitchen area. I have enough books to open my own library. A book on everything. Just about everything, I think.
So in between taking care of keeping your store and
I was on the committee for the handcar derby. Doug Hayes.
Was that in Orangevale or Folsom?
Folsom.
Okay.
Doug Hayes he's passed now, but he had a little store in the 800 block. And his dad worked for the railroad. Well, he looked and found where the turntable was buried. All they did was they filled it in. And it was a really big deal, because the turntable, the trains came out from Sacramento to Folsom. The train turned around on the turntable and went back to Sacramento. And at one time, it came across the bridge and went to Auburn. And there's a little book written by Cindy Baker, Bob and Barbara's daughter, and I have an autographed copy. But I've got all kinds of stuff, and I just seem like I hopped from one thing to the other. But
you've led quite a busy life and accomplished quite a bit. You can scan that. Look, that's Almond Avenue with snow.
It was my dad passed away on the morning of Rick's 4th birthday, and the end of the month in January that snowed. So it was January of '62.
I was here for that snow too.
Were you?
Were you?
Yeah.
Well, did you get out and play in it?
Oh yeah.
I felt that was important, because look at the snow.
Yes,
Dad had to dig it was a Sunday, and Dad had to dig the car out so that we could go to church. This is Margaret Fisher. She was our band director and over the whole music department.
Who's the teacher here?
That's Margaret Fisher.
Oh, that's Margaret Fisher. Okay.
Uh-huh.
Okay, Margaret Fisher.
She taught all the bands, and she taught the drama.
About what year was this?
Okay,
around 77. Okay.
The possible origins of Orangevale Avenue. That's the Lincoln cut.
Right. When you showed us.
I like this one.
Oh, that's lovely, the Orangevale Bridge.
Yeah, but I like the whole page.
Yes, yes.
Because it has Orangevale news on it.
And let me see, we have Thomas Coleman, Sadie Cable, William Manning, C.E. somebody, I'm not sure, just a C.E. Fred Lyon.
Lynn, I think it was supposed to be.
Oh, yes,
Mr. Lynn.
Mr. Lynn.
He was a music teacher.
Okay, and do you remember who this woman was?
Celia Perry.
Okay. Rob Lever's the shop teacher at Casa.
That's his son. Now this is Tom Avery and his wife Merla Mayneal. That's her maiden name. Her grandmother owned the property on Main Avenue that the Church of Christ is on now. There, between Madison and Greenback.
Oh, and that's your church.
Mhm.
Okay.
It's the other side of Greenback.
Yeah.
Before you get to, just before
Right,
you get to Madison.
on the west side. Okay, and these are your parents,
And yeah, Richard and Dorothy
Evans.
Evans. No, Doris. Richard and Doris Evans.
Evans. This man from the Battle of Okinawa, did he live in Orangevale?
Is that Bob Malore?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, down there on Hoffman Lane. Here's a picture of my grandmother. Mom's mother. That's Grandpa. And that's grandmother.
And which grandparents are they?
My mother's parents.
And their names were?
This is August Henry Schrump.
Uh-huh.
And he was the chef for the
Cliff House in San Francisco.
And her name was Emma Anna Katharina Moore. The Moores came from Germany.
Okay, great.
And the Schrumps came from Germany. And the Tea Gardens came from Germany.